of anticipation for its sequel, I decided to give Winnie the Pooh Blood and Honey a watch for myself to see if it really is a big pile of poo. Hey everyone, welcome to Cinema, where we focus on the film. I'm Josh, this is Simply Cinema, and today I'm giving my honest thoughts on Winnie the Pooh Part 1. Let me know down in the comments below if you've seen this film, what you think of it, or if you're just avoiding it like the plague. And just going right into the synopsis. After years of taking care of Winnie the Pooh and all the other friends in 100 Acre Wood, Christopher Robin goes off to college, but upon his return years later, his furry friends are going on a vengeance against humans because of the betrayal they feel when abandoned. Starting off the positives, I first want to give and share my own take that I did not watch any reviews going into watching this movie. I've only heard all the big complaints, how it's one of the worst movies of the past year, and so I had a very low expectation just going into it. Wasn't planning on seeing part 2, and just the gist of it, I was genuinely surprised by the filmmaking, the work that was put into it. It's not an expertly classed film, but for a low budget film that's going into this horror vibes, for ripping off Disney, bringing in the Winnie the Pooh character into a horror type of film, going on revenge for not being fed and general things. There's not a whole lot of story to it, but it is straightforward as it can be. Just Winnie the Pooh, and also Piglet included as well, just going against Christopher Robin as well as these other 4 friends for just being abandoned and no longer talking, not abandoning their own ways and going into the animal nature once again. And so just the general gist of it, it has a lively energy in some sense that it's not necessarily smart in the way it goes about all its antics or horror tropes, but it still follows along the lines of such as the Scream franchise, where they're just the villain is trying to knock off all these humans, not for a particular reason necessarily in this case, but in the general motive for Pooh and Piglet, what they have to go. It was a lot more fun and creative than I expected it to be, and just the darkness to the film had a certain aspect that I could totally vibe with, and just the general gist of how they're going about this, the energy and the set design, while it is very simple, the 100 Acre Wood is something that I can really imagine taking place in this, and it took me into different ways than I expected this film to go, just with the prologue of Christopher Robin taking his girlfriend to meet them, and then later on having this group of girls set apart from Christopher Robin, just how they're involved in a certain sort of way, just going on this vacation thing, and the way the getaway ends up happening. It turns out to be a horror fest, and the fake blood that is included with all the kills is surprisingly rather good, and the kills are just a lot of fun throughout. It isn't always the most creative in a sense, but it doesn't necessarily need to be, and it hooked me in throughout the entire runtime for the most part. And so just generally from the get-go, I was genuinely surprised by what this film had to offer. And going into some of the mixed elements, this is not a Disney film, and so the way they really twist and turn the Winnie the Pooh character and Piglet as well is just not a thing to be celebrated. Now, I would not slander anyone for going into the filmmaking business or whatnot, how they're pursuing their creative outlets. And so while I'm not going to slander what the directors are choosing to do, everyone involved with this film did good for what they may have been pursuing, and it is a film that is not necessarily meant to be taken seriously from what I'm getting out of it. Obviously, it is a twisted horror look into what if Winnie the Pooh and these other characters were evil, but unfortunately, it still has that childhood twisted horror that is not a thing that I can enjoy just for the general gist of what it's representing, but I still have to go with that idea that I would not hate against what these directors are bringing, what they're pursuing into life, because anyone should be pursuing what they love to create, what they want to create, and what they can imagine. But unfortunately, it's a ripoff of these beloved classics that we all know and love. But going into negatives, this certain film does have so many horror tropes that we have seen before. It doesn't take away from my enjoyment in one sense of what it's going after, but it falls along the lines of not necessarily predictability, but the general essence of what you expect a horror film. And there's not a whole lot of story outside of the revenge story that doesn't have proper motivation for going after the girls, as well as going after Christopher Robin. Obviously, there's that sort of motive against Christopher Robin for being the direct motive, but they're going against all humans. And so just generally with that, it's a weird sort of vibe that I can settle with and sort of agree with in some sense, but it doesn't go too far into complexity of the characters, into the depth of why you should care for these four girls. And generally with Christopher Robin and Winnie the Pooh, you generally know their characters from the get-go just because it's meant to be taking place within that universe in a sense. But the way they go about that and certain ideas that get twisted along the way brings about a certain stamina that just doesn't always work with the lovely nature of these being kid-based characters that you're generally getting after. And the writing itself isn't too hot on its toes either, just with the way they break certain laws of physics, certain timing issues of how people get to one place to the other so quickly, or how people's decision making is affected. Obviously there's a fear factor, sometimes you freeze in place, can't do it, but just with the pacing of how people aren't making smart decisions or able to do, that obviously breaks the realm of believability. But as a whole, this film generally surprised me for its own means. It's not a film I love for the nature of twisting a beloved Disney character into this, but for all the negative slander it has received, I have to rate this film a simply 6.5 out of 10. That's just my high score that I just really was surprised by the general vibe of this film. And I'd love to know your thoughts in the comments below. Do you agree with me and think it's overrated? Or do you really down dog on this film as a whole? So that's just my thoughts. Make sure to like this video, subscribe, and ready if you enjoyed this movie review and love to see more as we talk about movies each and every day and join in this film culture community. Thank you for watching. Bye for now.